Hey everybody, this is Nicole from Wildflower Valley Farm. I'm back in the garden again today, and I am battling an enemy that seems to be a common problem among some other YouTube homesteaders. But desperate times call for desperate measures, so let me show you what I've done so far. I have no idea if it's going to work, not a clue. But let me show you what I've done, and then in the comments below y'all can tell me about your experience and what you're doing to fight off this enemy. So here is a beautiful squash plant. It is a yellow patty pan squash. So far it has not started to bloom, but it was one of the later squash plants that I planted this year. So it looks like it's putting on some buds, so it should be blooming soon, I hope. Here is one of the first squash plants that I planted. It's also a yellow patty pan. It looks pretty sick, doesn't it? Well, it was covered, and I do mean covered, in squash beetles. And I've battled them and battled them. I've used DE several times. It's rained a lot this week, so it keeps washing everything off that I put on it. So I decided if the plant's going to die anyway, because at the rate it's going, it is a good possibility, we just try something seriously drastic and see if it works. So last night I mixed up a mixture of just water and a few drops of dish liquid and a few drops of lavender essential oil, and I have no idea if that mixture will be effective. It did seem to kill all of the bugs that were sprayed directly, but so far it doesn't seem to have prevented the spread of any bugs that were not directly sprayed. So I don't know that that's going to be a good preventative. And you can see one right there that is still alive, unfortunately. But like I said, I figured if the plant was going to die anyway, let's just try something drastic. So I cut off almost every leaf on this plant. I cut off most of the leaves that were wilted. There were a few that got left. But I cut off almost all of the leaves. And I have sprayed that mixture way down in all of these little crevices and nooks and crannies. I sprayed it last night, and of course it rained all night and most of the day today and washed it all off again. But I've sprayed it again this afternoon, and hopefully it'll stay. We'll just have to see if the bugs that are left will be able to take over again. The plant may die, or it may perk back and be bigger and better. So I don't know, we'll see. This one I actually pulled up, I pulled it out of the ground last weekend and started to just destroy the whole plant. And I thought, no, because it had a few of these leaves were actually looking pretty good at the time. So I thought, no, I'll just cut off all of the affected leaves and put it back in the ground and see if it works. I think the rain this week, all of the rain that we've had keeping the soil moist, is probably the only reason that it didn't die from being pulled out of the ground. But I was able to remove every single squash beetle from this plant, along with, again, most of the leaves. And some of these leaves have actually put back out. It's been in the ground, like I said, it's been here for almost a week. I think that was Sunday afternoon that I did that, and today is Thursday. So it's obviously looking pretty sick, but it's not dead yet. So until it's actually dead, we're going to give it a shot. I have not seen any more squash beetles back on it since I did that. This is a pumpkin that was covered in squash beetles and still has a lot on it. I'm going to spray it some more with that spray that I've mixed up. I've sprayed a lot, and all of these are squash beetles that were actually, the ones that are dead are squash beetles that were here when I sprayed it. So the direct spray does seem to kill them. But as you can see, there are some more that are crawling around on this pumpkin, and they don't seem to be affected by what I sprayed. It's not even been 10 minutes ago. So unfortunately, the spray does not appear to be good as a preventative, like I was hoping. But it did kill the ones that actually got a direct hit from the spray, so that's a help, I guess. I've been squishing, just using my fingers and squishing as many as I can catch, but some of the ones that are so tiny are just too hard to catch. I can't really get my fingers down in there, but you can kind of see a lot of dead ones too that, like I said, they got a direct hit from the spray. So the spray is not worthless. I just don't know that it's going to be useful as a preventative. There's some that missed being sprayed. But again, this plant was also looking pretty sick and probably going to die anyway. So I figure, why not just, you know, it's worth a shot. Why not just remove everything, as much as, you know, as much of the foliage as possible, and see what happens. You know, it may kill the plant, and it may not. I don't know. If you've ever done anything like this, leave me some comments down below and let me know. Let me know if you think this plant will actually manage to come back and survive, or if I've probably killed it. I hope not. I hope that it's doing well. But we shall see. The rest of the garden is doing fabulous. These are my tomato plants. There are tomatoes on both sides of this goat panel here. That is a volunteer squash of some kind. I'm not really sure. It may be a melon. Not really sure what that is, but I thought I would leave it and see what it grows. It does not seem to be affected by the squash beetles so far. This is some glass gem corn that I planted. Behind it is one variety of the long beans. I planted planted two different varieties of long beans, and I don't remember which one this is. I think these might be the Chinese long beans, I think was the name of them. I think that might be what these are. And the other ones, I believe, are what's called asparagus beans. Never grown long beans before, but I thought they would be interesting. I thought I would try it. Some more glass corn. I don't know what this is. If somebody could identify this and tell me what it is, I have no idea. All of the rain that we have gotten this week has really shot this thing up. I mean, I'm seriously shocked standing here looking at it right now, because earlier in the week, like Sunday or Monday, this thing was just about 4 inches tall. And now it is about 4 feet tall. I have no idea what it is. The leaves are super soft, like velvet. But if somebody knows what this is, let me know that down in the comments, because I'm really curious. I don't know if I want to leave it or if I want to pull it up, because I don't know what it is. All of this corn is glass gem corn. I have some pepper plants peeking out from amongst the tomatoes. That everything has just loved this rain this week. This tomato is actually a volunteer. I don't have any idea what kind of tomato it is. It needs to be staked, is the only thing I can tell you for sure. My eggplants are doing better. I seem to have gotten the flea beetles more under control for them. You can see lots of damaged leaves, but they are a lot better than they were. I have an interesting variety of sunflowers all over my garden this year, because I didn't plant any of them. They are all volunteers, and they are all completely different. I have this one that has, I mean, as you can see, it just has clusters of sunflowers all over it. And then I have some sunflowers here that are spent already. They because they were volunteers, they came up a lot earlier than most of the rest of the garden even. And I mean, they look like your average sunflower, except that a lot of them are just 4 or 5 feet tall. And then I have this one that is about 7 feet tall. So I just have a huge variety of sunflowers around the garden. And like I said, I didn't plant any of them. They're all volunteer. And I just left them to see what they would turn out to be. These are the other long beans that I planted. Like I said, I believe these are the asparagus beans. I've never grown this variety before either. So we shall see what they turn out to be. These bush beans are a type of burgundy bean. I don't remember the exact name of them. I'll have to look that up, but it's burgundy. I think it may just be called a burgundy bush bean, actually. I'm trying all of the beans that I planted this year are varieties that I have never planted before. I'm familiar with beans. I've grown beans in the past, but all of the beans that I planted this year are kind of experimental varieties for me. I've never planted them before. We'll just see how they turn out. But they are, all these burgundy beans are doing very well. They're flourishing. All of the corn that you see growing in between them is more of the glass gem corn. And this is just the other side of the tomato trellis with more peppers sticking out of the tomatoes. I need to clean these tomatoes up. The main part of the stem on most of them is pretty well supported because I've just been sticking them through the fence, kind of weaving them back and forth. But a lot of the side branches are kind of sticking out. So I think I'm going to get out here this weekend and kind of trim these up a little bit. Kind of help these plants out. This is another volunteer tomato. It's growing pretty upright on its own. There is nothing supporting that. And under it is a loofah gourd. I don't think it's getting enough sun here. I don't know if this is actually going to do well or not because I don't think it's getting enough sun. It looks healthy. It's just really small. And then of course it has parts on it where it got too close to the chicken fence and they bit it off. Of course, the bee balm is doing very well. It has bloomed out, and the blooms are spent, but it will probably put some more out again later. I usually just, instead of deadheading it, I usually just leave these to let it reseed so it can grow bigger and better next year. The raised bed is pretty much spent. The radishes have gone to seed. I'm going to collect some seeds off of the radishes. There's another volunteer tomato plant. I believe this one is a yellow pear because it made some pear-shaped tomatoes. So that should be what that is. Most of the carrots are ready to harvest. I'm going to pull those up this weekend. Same for the turnips. There's some pretty large turnips in there. The chard I'm just going to leave. I usually just, with the chard, I'll just do cut and come again and let that grow throughout the season and as far into the winter as it can survive the cold temperatures. I have in the past had some chard that actually wintered over and continued growing for a second year, so I'll just leave it and see what it can do. I believe I'm going to clean this bed up, pull out these radishes that have gone to seed. I'm going to pull those out. There's 3 or 4 beets in there. That's all that grew this year. But I'll pull those beets out. The carrots that are ready, I may leave a few of the carrots if there are some that seem to not be ready. Pull out the radishes. And I was reading online some other discussions about the squash beetles. And several people were suggesting to wait and plant around the middle of July. So I think what I'm going to do in this raised bed actually is plant some more squash in this raised bed and see what happens. I also saw some other suggestions to plant radishes with the squash, so I think I'm going to do that too. Go ahead and plant the squash and the radishes together and see if that will help. My cucumbers were a little bit slow growing. I think they had too much shade when they started. There was a big squash plant here that was, I think, a pumpkin probably. It was a volunteer that I left, and it got too big too fast and shaded out these cucumbers. But now that they're not shaded as much, they are growing a little bit, and they have blooms all over them. Some baby cucumbers even. Hopefully I'll have some cucumbers soon. And if you've watched some of my previous garden update videos, I talked about some pepper plants that I wintered over. This is one of those. This is a gypsy pepper, and it's doing pretty well. Making some big peppers. Those should start to actually change colors soon. They are multicolored. They'll be orange and red and yellow all on the same plant. This one is also a gypsy pepper. I've actually already harvested peppers off of it. You can harvest them green, and I've done that and just kind of sauteed them. If you look down here at this center stem, again, this is another one of the peppers that I wintered over from last year. So this is actually a second year on the same rootstock of the pepper, same plant. And I'm pretty impressed with the fact that these wintered over so well. I'm going to try that again this year, try to winter them over and see how they do. These are all of the leaves that I cut off of the squash plants, and I was hoping to drown all of the squash beetles. But it does not seem to have worked because they are trying to escape the bucket. So I'm just going to squash all of these by hand. Because I live in the city, I can't exactly set it out in the yard and burn it. But I'm going to squish them. Someone told me that chickens will not eat the squash beetles. And I am watching these chickens, and they are, yes, they're eating the plants, but they're also picking through and picking out the beetles. So, I mean, don't take my advice. I am not an expert, but feeding them to your chickens may be an option for destroying the beetles. They seem to be picking through all of them. You know, picking through the leaves and finding the bugs. So, hopefully they'll kill them all. I won't have to worry about them next year. So that is going to be all for today's video. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button down below so that you will catch all of the updates. I will be sure to update you all in the future as soon as I know whether these mutilated squash plants are going to survive. I will be sure to put out an update and let you know how those are doing. And comment down below and let me know about your squash beetle battles. Let me know what's working for you, what you've tried that's not working. We try to do everything organically, so I'm not willing to use poison. I'm not going to use 7 dust. But any other organic methods that you have to keep these nasty beetles off of your squashes, I am willing to consider. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up down below. Of course, if you don't like it, you're free to give it a thumbs down. And I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.